This is not really a surprise for the Taiwanese government, which had already anticipated these military exercises. A few weeks ago, the Ministry of Defense stated that such drills could take place very soon. So why now? Because recently, tensions between China and Japan have increased over the Taiwan issue. Japan's Prime Minister publicly warned that a Chinese military attack on Taiwan could pose a direct threat to Japan itself. But for Beijing, the main trigger is something else. It is the recent U.S. arms sale to Taiwan, approved only weeks ago. The deal is worth $11.1 billion, making it the largest U.S. arms sale since 2001. There is also another key strategy that should not be overlooked: maintaining constant psychological pressure on the Taiwanese population and dividing it. China is deliberately trying to exploit internal divisions within Taiwan. Because even as tensions continue to rise across the Taiwan Strait, Taiwanese society remains deeply divided, especially on the issue of defense spending.
Off the coast of China.
There's an island, and it's living under a constant, looming threat. Now, for Beijing, it's not a country at all. But for the people who live there, it's their home.
You've got fighter jets routinely crossing into its airspace, warships are constantly patrolling its shores, and look, this isn't some hypothetical situation we're talking about. This is the daily reality for millions of people.
And that island is Taiwan. So today, we are going to dive deep and unpack exactly why this small island has become such a massive global tipping point. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the tensions today, we've got to rewind the clock. We need to go back to a conflict that, believe it or not, is technically still happening. So, the year is 1949. The long, incredibly bloody Chinese Civil War is finally coming to a close on the mainland. Mao Zedong's communist forces, they've won. And the defeated nationalist government, they have to flee. They retreat across the strait to the island of Taiwan. And boom, just like that, you basically have two Chinas. On the mainland, you've got the People's Republic of China, the PRC, run by the communists in Beijing. And then just across the water, you have the Republic of China, the ROC, which is now based in Taiwan.
Now here is the absolute crucial point, the one thing you really need to remember. Since that day in 1949, no peace treaty has ever been signed. The war didn't officially end. It was just, well, it was frozen in time.
So, how does all that history lead to the kind of strange reality we see today? Well, it's because Taiwan lives in this constant state of paradox. It's like it's walking an invisible red line every single day.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Taiwan acts exactly like any other independent country. You know, it's got its own democratically elected president, a full-on professional military, its own money, and a really vibrant free society.
But, and this is the huge but, formally declaring independence, that's the one thing it can't do. China has made it crystal clear that if Taiwan ever does that, it's the point of no return. It would trigger an immediate military response. It's this incredibly fragile balance that's been held, somehow, for more than 70 years.
Now, this whole delicate situation doesn't just exist in a bubble, right? There's another huge player in this game, one that's deeply involved, and that's the United States.
And this is where we get to the official U.S. policy, which is, honestly, it's fascinating. It's called strategic ambiguity. So what does that even mean? Well, on one hand, the U.S. officially says, yep, we recognize the government in Beijing. But on the other hand, it sells a ton of weapons to Taiwan and helps train its military. The U.S. basically promises to help defend the island, but it never ever says exactly how it would do that.
Now, if you're looking at this from Beijing's point of view, this whole policy doesn't feel very ambiguous at all. They see it as a constant provocation. You know, America interfering in what China considers its own internal business.
So, you might be wondering, why does the rest of the world care so much? Well, putting all the geopolitics aside for a moment, it's because Taiwan is absolutely essential to our modern world. It is, and I mean this quite literally, the world's tech choke point. Just take a look at this. Taiwan produces more than 60% of the entire world's most advanced semiconductors. Let that sink in. Over 60%. That's a staggering amount of a critical resource concentrated in one tiny place.
And what do these chips power? Basically everything.
Seriously, the smartphone that's probably in your pocket right now, the laptop you're working on, the car you drive, even things like advanced fighter jets, and the entire backbone of artificial intelligence, all of it depends on these chips.
So let's be super clear here. A war over Taiwan wouldn't just be some small regional conflict. It would grind the global economy to a halt. It would send economic and technological shockwaves across the entire planet. No exaggeration.
And all of this brings us right up to today. Because in the last few years, Beijing has been dramatically ramping up the pressure. And it's making a lot of people ask the question, are we on some kind of countdown to a crisis? And this isn't just talk, not by a long shot. China is running a very active pressure campaign. We're seeing military jets circling the island almost every day. We're seeing huge naval exercises that are basically practice runs for a full blockade. They're even testing missiles in the waters right next door. The whole point is to try and wear Taiwan down, psychologically.
But launching an actual invasion is not a simple call to make. Beijing is facing a massive dilemma. On one hand, the risks of actually doing it are insane. The military and economic costs would be staggering. Taiwan is a natural fortress that's incredibly hard to invade. And of course, there's the huge risk of a direct war with the United States. But there are also risks to not doing anything. Time might actually be working against Beijing. The longer they wait, the stronger a unique Taiwanese identity gets, the more weapons Taiwan gets, and the more international support for the island seems to grow.
So all of this military posturing, all these exercises, it's all designed to probe and test one single crucial question that hangs over this entire situation. How far would the United States really go to defend Taiwan?
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about one island. It's a potential flashpoint for the whole world. It's really a showdown between two completely different ways of seeing the world, a rising authoritarian power on one side and the democratic world order on the other.
The stakes really could not be higher, because if a war starts here, the world as we know it will never be the same again.